Welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And after further review with Coach Heiss Northern, Coach, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, everything going pretty good. Had a chance to watch some good football over the weekend, and around the house, I got my dad in town, so we pretty much getting ready for hunting season, cleaning out and rearranging the garage and all that type of stuff, and we're gonna be back at football again this weekend. So I'm looking forward to it.
Now, you also do some hunting classes or teaching, right, that you got going on?
Yes, sir. I teach classes on Sundays from about 12 to 6 at the Bass Pro Shop over there in Katy. So basically the class is not teaching you really how to hunt a little bit, but my main focus is hunting safety, knowing the rules based off Texas Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. So I basically teach you everything that you need to know just from a hunting standpoint. I also do the fishing classes and the boater safety class as well. But right now, my main concentration is the hunter's education class.
Okay, very good, man. A man of many talents and skill sets. And it was a talented skill set this past weekend, man, from Dallas, Texas, too, huh?
I tell you what, it was a great game. Like I said, unfortunately, one team had to lose. But if you were just a fan of football, you had everything that you wanted. You had some exciting catches, some big runs, some big hits, some momentum swings, some fourth down, plays that couldn't be made again if the kids tried to do it. And it was just a good game to watch from a fan perspective. But, it was good. Like I said, I was happy for Coach McDowell and his guys to pull one of those games out after controlling the tempo of the game against Southern and coming out of the short end of the stick in overtime. And it almost looked like it was about to repeat itself again when Grambling scored, and the way they scored in their first overtime. I think some people are feeling, oh, here we go again. But to win it in 5 overtimes, that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, a whole different ball game, a whole different boost of confidence going into the rest of the season. Now, as we know, there's a non-conference game this week. It's okay, but it's not okay. Right now, it's all about what's remaining in your conference play. They can't afford to lose any more conference games to keep their Western hopes alive.
Yes, sir. Like I say, and I know they want to win this game regardless of what people may feel or say. You on the road against a national ranked opponent. Some guys gonna get up for that because they have a chance to prove themselves against a quote unquote good team. And I know a couple of years ago they played them when they were really good and actually played a close game and didn't come out on top. But I think if some of those guys are still around, they can harp on the fact that, hey, man, we had these guys a couple of years ago when they were probably top 5 in the country, and now they top 14. So let's go up there and see what we can do, and then let's get back to conference play. But I think one of the things that, and I know Coach McDowell and his guys are focusing on, is that Grambling game is over. If you think about, and I talked about this before, when Grambling beat Jackson State, everybody in Grambling, Louisiana was still talking about how bad and how they did against Jackson, and nobody was talking about Little Old Prairie View. So now what Little Old Prairie View got to do is get Grambling out of their mind and focus on this one game against Incarnate Word.
Absolutely. Now, we know there was a quarterback change in halftime for Prairie View, and we call him JJ. We said JJ was dynamite.
Yes, sir.
Looked real good. Do we now, in your opinion, have a quarterback situation at Prairie View?
Nah, just from the short conversation, I'm not going to say I had with Coach McDowell, but some things I've heard him say is they going to roll with JJ for right now and just sort of stay with the hot hand unless something changes, during the practice where we have an injury or something like that. But I think if you go back to doing not 2 days, but training camp, he and Coach Whedon kept saying it was a very tough quarterback competition / battle. And he felt like they had 3 guys that they could put in there at any time. And I think with Coley getting injured, Peters not playing so well, it's a perfect time to put JJ in. Let's see if we can get a spark and that spark led them to a victory against Grambling. So,
Absolutely.
like I said, just sort of stay with the hot hand until that hot hand get cold or something else shows itself in practice.
Yes, sir. Well, like you said, it was a tough game for anyone to lose. If you're Grambling, what are you and Coach Mickey Joseph telling your squad to trying to get over this game?
Man, how many times, if you go back and look at some of the games that Prairie View lost early in the season, it almost looked like Grambling turned into Prairie View because they had a few drop passes. They had some drop passes that turned into interceptions that gave Prairie View a short field, and their defense didn't look like the typical Grambling defense. I think they may have had one turnover, but it looked like they were just misaligned a little bit on some of the shifts and the motions, and they were a step behind on some of their blitzes. So instead of them getting the sack, they might have hit the quarterback, and a couple of them, they might have hit them a step late. So they end up with a couple personal fouls. And, they just didn't play the typical way that Grambling defense had been playing. And I think because of the way the defense had been playing, their offense didn't capitalize on the short field. I think they may have given them a short field twice. And Prairie View's defense was playing lights out because it was a defensive struggle for the most part, in my opinion. But then, sometimes guys just get hot at the right time.
Absolutely. And when you get into those overtimes, it's really about heart when you go that deep into overtime. Both guys are fatigued. It's humid. Even though it's in late September, you still got to deal with that hot playing surface and everything. And like you said, 36-34, what you talking about defense? But those defenses showed up where they counted.
But if you think, you played 5 overtimes, so you can only score 2 points in some of those overtimes, but the first 2 you can score a touchdown. So it was some good defense being played. But sometimes, like I say, if you go back and look at the 4th down catch that kid made for Grambling to let him get down there to score that final touchdown, that was a great play. It was good defense on that play because, they smacked the mess out of the quarterback. He just so happened to throw it to a guy that he probably couldn't make that catch again if you gave him 20 chances with no defense out there. So, sometimes you go, like say, good defense, but just a little bit better offense. But I tell you, it was, and I think we were talking about it during the broadcast, sometimes the offense has the advantage because that defense, especially if you go first, has just come off the field and they don't get a lot of recovery time because, you flip from offense to defense, then your defense still stays out there and plays first once you get into the 2-point situation. So, but I tell you what, the one play that just showed supreme effort by Prairie View's defense, it was in overtime, and Grambling came out in a full house backfield with 3 guys to the left of the quarterback, and they basically ran student body left to the defense right. And, man, there's no way that Grambling should not have scored, but one guy from Prairie View, fought through a block from an offensive lineman and one of those running backs and made a hell of a play. And then another guy hit the quarterback, Crawley, and this wasn't no big guy. It was one of the safeties, and Crawley's a decent-sized kid. But when he hit him, he stood him up, and then the rest of the cavalry, as they say, came to the rescue and stopped Grambling's offensive line and running backs from pushing Crawley into the end zone. But that was just, like I say, man, them guys, they played fast at a lot of times, and, man, them jokers just was making plays throughout the game. So you got to give it up to the defense. Like I say, minus that last drive, and, it's just sometimes things going to happen like that. But I still think it's some things that, like I say, the casual fan will see and be like, man, how that happened? But as a defensive coach, I know on one of those plays they was playing what we call 3D man under, and one of the safeties rotated a little bit too far, which easily, to me, knowing the defense, he should have knocked that ball down. But, things like that happen. I don't know if sometimes it's pressure, kids being kids, but, sometimes the only thing you have to do is do your job, and if you do your job, it's going to come out successful for the team.
Absolutely. Now, of course, this game had everything, and let us not fail to mention a couple of controversial calls, or should we say no calls, on a particular catch in the second half of play, which led us toward overtime playing.
Yeah, man. You like to say, I look at it, and some of those guys that are officiating games were some of the same guys that were doing it when I've been coaching in the SWAC or whatever. But, man, sometimes it makes you think, like, what in the world are they looking at? And then in the last series, I think Coach McDowell called a timeout, and they still didn't review the play, which was, it should have been an automatic review from the get-go because it was less than a certain amount of time in the game is automatic review. They still didn't review the play, the fourth down, quote-unquote, catch. And I was like, what are they doing, or why are they not reviewing it? And I think even a few Grambling people that I talked to said they didn't think that the kid handled the ball throughout the catch, as they say. So, just things like that happened. Then some of them were mad about the pass interference that gave Prairie View the ball at the 1.5 yard line to let them score. I thought that was a good call because he grabbed the guy's hand that had he not grabbed it, that kid probably easily catches that football. So it was just, and that's going to happen. Those guys are human, but sometimes it's like, don't make the obvious miscall type of thing,
right,
for whatever it is. But, they human, and sometimes you got to play, as they say, that's part of the game. It's going to happen, but sometimes you got to play through it.
Well, Coach, I want to jump back to Prairie View's opponent this week, Incarnate Word.
Yes, sir.
They, along with Houston Christian, which came in as Houston Baptist, they came from the NAIA rankings, and their programs are relatively new in comparison, but they've made some great strides. What do you attribute that to? Because when you look at it, budget-wise, I think they line up with Prairie View. Facilities, you would give advantage to Prairie View. And the coach and Prairie View's coaching staff has been of great. What would you attribute their instant success to?
Being private schools.
Okay.
So this is why I say that when you're at a private school, you can let in whoever you want to play sports. You can give your coaches, you can give them some legacy, quote-unquote, scholarships. You can give them some what we call talent scholarships. That means, Coach, we going to give you, they may say, we going to give you 10 scholarships that are 10 slots that for a kid that don't necessarily meet the academic requirements for Incarnate Word or Houston Baptist, whatever you want to call them. They don't meet any of the requirements to get in school. But because the fact that they can play football, they can get kids in school there that Prairie View won't even say almost, or we'll think about it too, if you understand what I'm saying. Either from a grade point average standpoint, from a major standpoint, it's different things like that where they'll say, we'll take you when a Prairie View can't take them, if you understand what I'm saying. So just say Incarnate Word. And I'm going to tell you, so, when I was the head coach at Prairie View, I visited every FCS program, started with Incarnate Word, and I went all the way to Alabama State. So I visited every Southland Conference school except Central Arkansas, all the 1AA schools, like you say. And I went to Incarnate Word. Well, one of Incarnate Word's biggest, quote-unquote, boosters was a guy that owns the Minnesota Vikings. So, yeah, you might not have the quote-unquote facility, but the money that you need to do X, Y, Z and get kids in school or scholarships, that's something that their coaches don't have to worry about, if you understand what I'm saying. Their summer school budget is probably going to match their school year budget. So just for example, this is what I'm saying. So if Incarnate Word has a kid that's on full scholarship, where their full scholarship rolls over into the summertime, where just say at a school like a Prairie View or a Grambling, a kid on full scholarship may not get any scholarship money, or he may only get scholarship money for the second summer session, which goes into training camp. So it's different things like that that makes a big difference in who you can get in school. Once they get in school, can you keep them there for training and all those different things that some of the other SWAC schools cannot do. And it's not their fault. They taking advantage of what they have. But I know from talking to coaches that have been there, I have relatives that played at both of those schools. I sort of know the lay of the land when it comes to, how they getting kids in school, how they stay a little bit step ahead. And the other thing that nobody wants to talk about, they probably can get the best of quote unquote both worlds, because they can get some of the black high school and junior college linemen that may get overlooked by some of the quote unquote big boys, and they'll get way more white kids that play offensive line that will say, I'll go to an Incarnate Word on a partial scholarship before I go to Prairie View or Texas Southern on a full scholarship. And like I say, from having recruited some white kids that we want to play on the offensive line, I've been told that they quote unquote felt a little bit more comfortable at that school. I've seen kids change their major and take less money to go to school at a school where they quote unquote felt more comfortable than coming to a HBCU on full scholarship.
Yeah, they say the more things change, the more they stay the same, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and if I can go back and just tell you some of the stories, and in particular some of the black parents who had two sons that one may have gone to Stephen F. Austin and just totally hated, and they'll still send another kid there or to another Sam Houston, Lamar type of school, as opposed to saying, let me take a chance on this HBCU. But, that's, like they say, water under the bridge, and some people think another colored person, ice, is colder, or they think that the 45-pound weight at Lamar or Houston Christian weighs more than a 45-pound plate at Prairie View A&M or Texas Southern.
Yeah, it's one of those things that just keeps on keeping on, right? Well, look, now that we look into this week competition, we have, we've got 5 weeks behind us already, because it doesn't seem like it, even though we have an extra game this season. When you look at the matchups this week, are there any matchups that are standing out in particular to you that you're looking forward to this week?
Oh man, I had it on who is I'm going to the Southern Nichols game, and I'm pulling for my Jaguars, just like I'm gonna be pulling for Prairie View. And somebody else who does Alabama State have this week?
Alabama State would be playing. They played Bethune-Cookman this past week.
It's an Eastern matchup.
They're playing
somebody.
No, Alabama State is playing FAMU.
That's the one that I'm interested in, because Alabama State defense, how they gonna match up with FAM's offense, and then Alabama State offense. Can Alabama State offense not give the game away? Can they hit them with some big plays, control the clock, which they gonna do because they're gonna be running the ball? But I think one of the things Alabama State's gonna have to do is take a page out of Prairie View's playbook last week and throw some short passes on first down. And then second down, they probably gonna run it 9 times out of 10 anyway, because if you throw it and don't complete a pass, from my breakdown of film, if somebody throws it on first down and don't complete it, they gonna run it 9 times out of 10 on second down. If they throw it and complete it, they gonna run it 10 times out of 10 on second down. So it's just one of those stats that shows up. If you watch football games, especially college football, you'll see that over and over again. Incomplete pass on first down, run on second down. Completed pass on second down, on first down, depending on the down and distance, they gonna run it more on second down. So it's just one of those, we got to keep the clock going some type of way. But I think that Alabama State FAM game is going to be top notch. But I can see, based off Alabama State's offense, I can see FAM winning by a lot, or I can see Alabama State winning by 3 to 4.
Okay, or it might be another 5 overtime game, Coach.
Well, I think it'll be good for the fans, but not the coaches. Because look, I told somebody, I said, man, the next game I go to, that Prairie View play, I'm gonna be selling shots of liquor, blood pressure medicine, and cigarettes in the stands, because they know how to get your blood pressure up, boy. But it's been some good games, I tell you what.
Yes, sir. And now that you're halfway in the season, coach, and your identity of your team has pretty much been stamped. Would you say so?
I say a little bit, but you got to think about it. With all the up and down quarterback play, I wouldn't be surprised if, because number one, Crawley left the game, he looked a little bit hobbled. I wouldn't be surprised if he struggles the next game if they try to get somebody else in a quote unquote package, or maybe some running plays, or some quick, easy hitters for the second string quarterback at Grambling. Prairie View is played, and they probably gonna be on their third starting quarterback. But the good thing about it, they don't have to change a whole lot of what they do because of who's at quarterback for them. Some schools, if they go to their second quarterback, it's almost like they have to design a whole new package or a whole new scheme for the second string, and the first string don't match up the same.
Right, right, right. Well, as they say, the rubber is definitely hitting the road right now, and you're going to be at home almost this weekend because Southern is hosting. Who is Southern hosting this weekend?
They play Nicholls State.
Yeah, that's right. They're playing Nicholls State. A tall order, but what do you see for Southern need to be successful against Nicholls State?
Hit them with some big plays, get some momentum early. And like you say, the thing about Nicholls is they typically keep pretty good offensive and defensive linemen at Nicholls, and then they'll sprinkle in a big running back, maybe one or two good wide receivers that was either LSU or Tulane, second or third on the depth chart, lead for better playing time. But I know their head coach. I've been knowing him for a good while. I think he does a good job of just keeping those guys in the mix with everything. And then because of where he's been, a lot of people know him from Louisiana to Texas, where he coached on the collegiate level. A lot of people they'll help him get kids that don't make it at a Louisiana, Lafayette, or Tulane, all those types of schools. And then they're one of those schools that can get people in school. We always used to laugh about, Nicholls State is a glorified junior college to us. Or we would call it grade 13. Oh, you're going to grade 13 instead of going to college or whatever. But, like I say, they used to run the option. So they were the only team really that was running dive option football, and they were totally hard, a separate way you had to prepare for football, like going against Navy or the military academies. And they just were a gritty bunch of guys. But now they still got some gritty guys, and they get the transfers in, and they can they play a good brand of football. If I'm being honest.
Yes, sir. Now, one thing about that old triple option, coach, you didn't have to have massive line. You just have to have some strong, quick guys, man, that can stay on their blocks.
I'll tell you what, when we played them when I was at Southern, well, actually, one year we played them. That was our only loss of the season. I think that was my third year of school. That was our only loss of the season, and that was their only win of the season. So it had one guy that I would see all the time, and every time he would remind me that they were the SWAC champs that year because we actually won the SWAC championship, and like I say, that was their only win. But you know what? Those jokers came out, they were getting 4-point stance to their offensive line and almost crawl off. And, they get to that second level, and, man, they were some cut blocking fools. I hated playing against them, but I like playing against them too because as a safety, when I was playing free safety, all I had to do was just go dive quarterback to pitch. And a lot of times I could just, like I say, through my progression, I'm going to make a tackle. But at the same time, if somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do, man, I had one of them offensive linemen on my knees so bad. But yeah, I like playing against them, but didn't like playing against them.
Right, a scrappy, hard-fighting team. And that's why when you look at it, Coach, it's really, as I say, styles do make fights, right? And even though you might have a team that traditionally is down, but because of their personnel setup, they can make it real rough for a team that they should normally have struggles with.
Yes, and that's true. It just depends on your preparation. And like I say, I know back then we took them for granted, but I don't think these guys, because Nicholls, they gonna hover around that being ranked 15 to in the 25s or low 30s, but they're gonna be somewhere in the mix, and they gonna give some people a run just because, like I say, they get kids in school and they get kids that transfer to Nichols just because they want to think they're going somewhere to get a chance to play. And like I say, I respect their coach and what he does from a scheme standpoint too. But they not the Nichols of old, as they say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But so we got a short week. We still got some of these buys and some non-conference games, but everything is starting to thicken up and get ready to, as they say, get down the stretch run of conference play for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Are you seeing any teams that are surprising you in a good way at this stage of the game, Coach?
Nah, to be honest with you, no, because the Wild Wild West, like I say, they gonna Wild West. Coach Green said something on the press conference last week when he was standing in for Coach McDowell. He's like, you've been in the conference for a while, and it's gonna be almost impossible unless you have far superior quarterback play in the conference to go through here undefeated. So he knows, or they know at the end of the day, somebody with 2 losses is probably going to represent the West in the SWAC championship game. Now, on the eastern side, it looked like it's going to always come, and it's almost like the West, but it's going to come down to FAM, Jackson, and Alabama State. You know, for a while, it seemed like it was just going to be FAM and Jackson or Alabama State. You know, they got to find a trigger man, but if you think about it, the best quarterback play in the conference is the kid, I want to say Richardson at FAM. But other than that, nobody can say we have a quarterback that we can hang our hat on week in and week out, and we know what we going to get. We know we're going to get 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, maybe 1 interception. Nobody in the conference can say they're getting it at the quarterback spot right now. And that's what's going to make it so interesting, is almost who can win in spite of their quarterback, not because of their quarterback sometimes.
Well, I tell you what, I've been impressed with Jackson State. Not that they were under the radar, but, you know, as you say, the FAMU defending champ, and it's a lot of hope for Alabama State this year. But Jackson State has been steady and grinding and beating up who they need to beat up.
Yeah, but I think part of it is, if you look at it, they beat Grambling and played 2 quarterbacks, and I don't think they were, quote-unquote, happy with that. And like I say, these Jackson fans, I don't think they were happy with the quarterback play. No, I'm sorry, they lost to Grambling in their mind because of the quarterback play. Then they came to Texas Southern. They won the game, but didn't get great quarterback play, if you understand what I'm saying. And so, like I say, sometimes you can still win, but people want better quarterback play. You go back to FAM last year, you know, they had Musa, who was the conference player of the year, and some of FAM's fans wanted him benched, you know. And to be, like I said, I wasn't very impressed with the kid, but the simple thing he did was win football games. And a lot of it wasn't because of him, but they had the best running back. But the quarterback going to take way more blame and get way more credit than they deserve in the football game.
Yeah, and you bring up Texas Southern, man. They keep on disappointing me, Coach. Every time I get on their bandwagon, they go ahead and knock me right back off. They'll be having their homecoming game this week. They'll be taking on Virginia Lynchburg. But they're kind of a yo-yo right now, huh?
Man, that's the same thing I said. And, you know, like, I picked them to win because they hadn't been turning the ball over in games. And lo and behold, they go and lay an egg against Jackson. So I say, man, that's the reason why I don't go to casinos, because it's obvious I don't know much. But the quarterback that played for them was not the one that I was expecting them to play. So, like I said, I don't know what was going on, if a kid may be injured, you know, got in trouble, discipline issues or what. But, I mean, they just got to figure it out on offense. And then I thought their defense, with the size and speed that they have on defense, I thought they would have gave Jackson all that they could handle, almost, because I thought they Gramblin's defense looks good, but they don't, in my opinion, if you just go body for body, Gramblin's defense don't look like Texas Southern defense. Texas Southern defense look different than everybody else. And I keep saying that over and over. They do.
And when you talk about the quarterback and play at Texas Southern, depending on who you ask and what you believe in the grapevine news, that there's, yes, some depth playing right now. They played the number 3 quarterback. So I'm saying the number 1 quarterback is not technically hurt per se, but they've been holding them back. And like I said, I don't know what to believe when it comes to the rumor mills on that. But I don't think any coach is going to hold out somebody who's going to give them a better chance of winning.
Yeah, especially if my thing was if a kid was healthy and could keep himself out of harm's way, depending on the injury. Now, if a kid had a concussion, I'm going to err more on the side of keeping a kid out with a concussion than I am of playing a kid because of, my personal thought process on football, the game. If a kid not going to the NFL or something, man, I'm not going to put a kid out there. And I actually saw one of the guys at the last Prairie View game that I held him out of a game, which was the last game of the season because he had a concussion. He wanted to play very bad. Man, the Joker called me a couple of years later and said, Coach, I just want to thank you for not being selfish and put me out there in harm's way. So, like I say, the concussion issue, I'm totally, but if it's something else, can a kid play? Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I encouraged a kid to play with a broken finger one time. I'm like, man, this is your last game that you probably ever going to play. If I thought you couldn't do it, I wouldn't put you out there with a broken finger. Now, mind you, I've seen kids with a bone sticking through their finger in pregame and play a whole game, so that's where my thought process comes. I played the whole season. My wrist was broke. I didn't even know it was broken until the end of the season. I just thought it was hurting all the time. So, like I say, that's my mindset when it comes to certain injuries. But the kid that played with the broken finger, at the same time, he's like, Coach, thank you for trusting me. Joker went out there, had 8 tackles and a fumble recovery. So,
yes,
like I say, I'm looking at it from that standpoint, but I'm never going to put a kid in harm's way when it comes to a head injury.
Absolutely. And, yeah, a broken finger, well, we can get over that. Well, I'm thinking about Ronnie Lott when he got that finger cut off. Hey, man, cut it off. Let's go. I got to get out there and make it happen. But I'm not advising. I don't want nobody listening to somebody. Prince, I'm telling you to cut their fingers off. I'm not saying that at all. But there are certain things, there's no saying either if you're injured or you're hurt. There's a difference between them, but that's old relic football talk, and I'm not going to let's like y'all on these A's and B's and C's, gaps. There's 2, 4, 6, 8 for me, Coach.
Yes, sir.
So look, we got our gamut of the week set up, man. Any closing thoughts and comments, sir, as we get ready to wrap this week's segment up?
No, I'm looking forward to it. Like I say, I'm going to Adam has now worked his way into the starting lineup, so I'm looking forward to going see him play. And look, last week was his first start. It was homecoming, and I'm walking to the stadium and I hear him say his name over the loudspeaker. So I'm like, they must be calling out the kids with high grade point averages or something like that. So we get in there and I asked the lady that was sitting by me. I was like, hey, I heard them calling the kids names. What were they calling the names for? She said, I think that was the starting lineup. She said she wasn't sure. So sure enough, and I don't sit with my wife at the football game when we go watch Adam play most of the time. So I text her like, well, maybe Adam may be starting. And sure enough, he starts, Mike. And just say if the other team ran 6 plays the first drive, he had 3 tackles. Man, I'm sitting up there nervous wreck, to be honest with you. So, and then I asked him, I said, Adam, man, why you didn't tell me you were starting? He said, well, they didn't tell me until 6th period, the day of the game. So, it's one of those types of things, man. And I tell people this, man, I have coached in front of 70-something thousand people at the Bayou Classic, 60,000 at the Cotton Bowl. And, man, I have never been as nervous or, be as nervous as when I'm watching that Joker play a sport. It always looked like when the game on the line, he find a way to come up to the plate in the last inning with 2 outs and the guy on second and third or something like that. So, it's just always that you can't do nothing for your kids. And, man, I ain't no smoker, but I can imagine, man, I need me a cigarette and a drink at the games up there. So, I always laugh about that. But, I'm looking forward to watching him play. Then I'm looking forward to going home, going hunting with my dad, and watching Southern play against Nichols. And Nichols they 1-3, but they have played Louisiana Tech. I think they played LSU, and they played somebody else that's ranked in the top something in the country, and they beat Valley. So hopefully Southern can get some redemption, from Valley. Southern, they're 1-3. Southern is 2-2. So I'm gonna go root my Jaguars on, and hopefully we can pull that one out. So we'll see.
Okay, well look, man, you bring some of them burritos back, man. If you going down there, that hunting there, that was on point. So, Coach,
yes,
look, you travel safe, man, and have a fantastic weekend. Wish Adam well. He is our play-by-play. And by the way, great call on last week, sir, from the Cotton Bowl. You guys did an outstanding job. He is our football guru, coaching expert, Coach Heiss Northern. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. And we had just completed another session of After Further Review. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter X at The Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And check out our 24-hour stream at obnradio.com. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.